Moving on to your application, I looked at the documents that you filed. To start with, I think you've already shed some light on your appointment at the DPP. KRA did not clear you as tax compliant, and I believe they must have communicated to you the reasons why. All I want to hear from you is whether it has been sorted and whether you can now avail to us a document that clears you as tax compliant.
I have a tax compliance certificate until August of this year. So I met the requirements for the purposes of this interview. But following on I believe you're the ones who requested them for the information, they started engaging in issues which I thought amounted to some sort of blackmail in terms of, you want to attend the interview, you must pay whatever we want. And I wrote to them, I said, I will not submit to blackmail just because I want to serve the public in a certain capacity. I said, don't connect the two issues. I will attend my interview and I'll come back and have a discussion. So to answer your question, after my interview, I can listen to what it is they were saying, but I certainly rejected everything that they were coming up with because it was completely unsubstantiated and it was just leverage because of this interview.
So that is to say the matter is still unresolved?
I didn't go back. I will go back because I didn't want to be distracted from this interview. So I'll probably go back next week.
Okay, thank you.
And communicate. But I told them to divorce the two issues. People who volunteer to serve the public or try and apply for jobs do not submit to blackmail, because at that point you're vulnerable and you want to get something done. I said, this is not a job I need to have, but I certainly wish to offer my services to the public.
Okay, that is noted. In the advertisement for the job, you also required to submit your audited accounts. Did you comply with that?
I believe I did. I was dealing with it as a team, so you need to tell me if I didn't do anything. But anything that you required me to do, I believe I did.
You submitted audited accounts?
I believe I did.
Okay, we'll look at those.
Just let me know if there's any shortcomings. We did submit some accounts.
Okay. In the wealth declaration that you filed, Form 2B,
yes,
you did not disclose whether you hold accounts and the money that you have in those accounts when you are declaring your assets. I noticed...
In personal accounts or?
Yes, I noticed that I think either yesterday or the day before yesterday,
yes,
you submitted a further declaration, including
yes,
some property that you had left out,
yes,
but you still have not included your bank accounts.
My personal bank account?
Yes, it's
Okay.
your personal wealth declaration.
I did submit my wealth declaration. My personal bank accounts, I'll check.
You submitted your wealth declaration form, isn't it?
I submitted
Together
a
with
wealth
your
declaration
application
form.
Together with the one for your
I've
spouse.
submitted audited accounts. I've submitted wealth declarations for my spouse. And as you rightly point out, there is an asset I acquired after applying for this interview. Applying for this interview, I declared it 2 days ago, and there is those assets which I declared, which are inheritance being processed. So the question of my personal bank account, I'll check.
I'm focusing on the bank account. I'm saying you did not declare those. You did not list them amongst your assets. Is there a good reason why?
My accounts, I'll check.
Yes.
And I thought I did. I'll check. There's no reason for me not to. So you shall get it if you don't have
If you do not have a problem with that, then that's okay.
Yes, I will.
And if you intend to submit an updated one, then please remember to do that before we are done with the selection process.
You certainly will by Monday.
Thank you. Okay, now there are some, I don't want to call them complaints, but there's information we've also received from the public that I would like to share with you, and maybe here invite your comments.
Sure.
Some of the information that we've received, or let me say one of the complaints that we've received, concerns some succession cases that you handled on behalf of relatives, which are basically in the public domain. You agree they're in the public domain?
Yes, reported widely in the newspapers.
Thank you. So the allegations in those cases are that you are representing siblings against siblings, creating strife, bullying siblings out of property that maybe they ought to inherit. And basically our concerns from these complaints or from the information we received, they tend to point to the fact that you are not a consensus builder, you're not a team player, and also that you have problems delegating.
Okay, go ahead.
That is the perception, at least I am getting. You're representing relatives in cases against relatives, and it's all creating very bad blood within the family. I don't know what you would say about that.
Have you read my response?
Yes, I did.
Okay. My response answers every single one of those false allegations comprehensively, but restrains itself from going too far because it is a matter pending in court and is due for hearing on the 22nd of April this month. But since you have asked, and you have asked on public TV, I have to respond. As I told you, I told the Commission, I always take a position when it comes to people who bully and who deprive people of what is theirs. So, in the case in question, these are cousins of mine, and what makes it impossible for somebody other than myself to represent them is because they found it impossible to get an advocate in the town that they live because of the nature of their brothers. No one wanted to touch their case. So it fell upon me. And the case is very simple. The deceased had plenty of property. He died intestate. The brothers, most of the brothers, took it upon themselves to take all the old man's property, led by the eldest son, who is a member of parliament, who took the lion's share. And they disinherited 15 sisters or girls and 5 widows. That was a case where I felt that I had to go beyond the call of normal duty. When it comes to what you say, consensus building, if you were to peruse the file that is before the Eldoret High Court, I have suggested 10, or many times, not 10, that it should go to court-appointed mediation, even in my absence. It went to court-appointed mediation, and what happened? The men stood on one side, the ladies stood on one side, and they were berated, insulted, bullied, and threatened till they were in tears and told, take nothing because it is what your father what your father wished. They left the mediation, we went back to court. So it is absolutely false that I am a bully, that I take anything from anyone, but I can plead guilty to something very small. I fight for justice. If they are my cousins, they are my sisters, I will fight for them. If those widows are there and they are destitute, landless, living hand to mouth today, except for the 10,000 we fought that they be given, I'm very proud of doing that, and they appreciate it. In fact, the mistreatment of the widows was so great that one mother died of neglect. We had to go to court and ask for a stipend of 10,000 shillings per month to be given to her for her upkeep and buying her nappies and all sorts of things. So it's a case where, and so that you will understand that your view has, or the facts have been considered, they applied for my disqualification before the Honorable Judge in Eldoret. And considering all the circumstances, Her Ladyship, the Judge in Eldoret, said there's no conflict of interest and there's nothing wrong that Mr. Murgor has done. So it's been considered. I wish to tell you this, Madam Commissioner. What would they like most? They would like to take everything from their sisters and mothers. If I become the Chief Justice, perhaps I won't be in that case, but somebody else may step into my shoes and fight as hard. So it's unfortunate, it's painful to have to talk about them in this manner, but since they are the ones who put out the complaint and circulated it widely on social media, I have to respond. So it's not something that I have any regrets about. So take it not that I'm a bully, but take it that I take the side of victims. I'll fight for a woman, I'll fight for a widow, I'll fight for a girl anytime, for free.
Thank you. Maybe still on that same question arising from your answer, you've made a very passionate response to the question that I asked, and I can see it actually touches you deeply. But I just want a reassurance from you, and also maybe to the people concerned, that if you become Chief Justice, they will have nothing to fear concerning interference with that case or influence.
That is a fair position to take. I certainly give my professional and very personal undertaking that I wouldn't interfere with it, nor do I stoop to the level of doing things like that. All that these people deserve is a fair hearing, both sides, those who say they inherited everything and those who say they inherited nothing. These young men, well, they are not young, they're old men, say that the law of Kenya does not apply to them. Only something that Mr. Koskei might know, Bwana Koskei might know of. It's called KU customary law, where ladies and widows are subhuman, but they should come to the 21st century.